Garbage Time Fantasy Football. We have part 4, the final part of our bold takes. It's time for Garbage Time.
Hey, Ron, where's the beef?
Where's the beef? The beef is here. Welcome into Garbage Time Fantasy Football. I am your host, Ron the Fantasy Spectre Seymour, joined today by the one fake honey badger himself, Joseph McCann. How are you today?
What's going on, Ron? You ready to go through the gauntlet tonight?
Oh, yeah. All right. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Leave us reviews. Hit up our website at www.garbagetimef.com. You can see everywhere we are available. You can leave reviews over there. You can leave us voicemails or hate mails. And that's that whole spiel that I'm going through.
Yeah, you can also do it on Pandora. You can also message us on Garbage Time Fantasy Football on Instagram. And if you want to talk to JJ instead of me, you can message him on our Twitter, garbage_time FF. Ron, let's do it.
I'm not even trying that Twitter one anymore. I fuck it up every time. Every single time. That being said, let's get into the news.
News updates.
All right, first little bit of news that we have tonight. Terry McLaurin has finally gotten his contract. Kind of a specter himself. He's a little bit quiet, and nobody really expects for him to hold out. And it looks like he's not going to have to any longer. It is a 3-year, $71 million contract that will keep him in the Crimson, Gold, and Burgundy until 2025. Ron, what is your thoughts on Terry McLaurin getting that $71 million contract and those ugly-ass uniforms?
You said the way you said Burgundy, all I could think of was Anchorman.
Ron Burgundy?
I'm Ron Burgundy?
Well, right now I am Ron Burgundy. I'm doing the news.
Oh, all right. I mean, I don't want to say he doesn't deserve it, but I mean, he's a very talented wide receiver, but he hasn't really done much. You know what I mean? I'm getting to the point where these wide receivers are almost getting a little too big for their britches. And
it feels like it.
You know what I mean? And it just makes me angry. Chris Godwin, who's balled out since, for 2-3 years now, gets a $60 million contract. This guy who's shown flashes and is highly athletic. And I understand he's been, crippled by quarterback. But it doesn't change the fact. You want game-changing money, you need game-changing ability. Regardless of your quarterback.
Well, I will argue that while Carson Wentz isn't my favorite quarterback, he did support Michael Pittman there with the Colts and elevate his game. And Terry McLaurin, I think, is on the level of Michael Pittman. I think he's a little bit more overvalued than Michael Pittman. I think Michael Pittman's going to be the much better value this year and perform better than Terry McLaurin. But I could see him performing quite well this year. Listen, there's not a lot of weapons there. They have a rookie wide receiver. I think this is a decent number for the Commanders to pay for him because, listen, they don't have a lot of talent on their roster, and they've got to pay someone. They got to keep some of that talent strung along. So why not keep Terry McLaurin there? I think he's worth more than Christian Kirk, who got significantly more than that. What I'm opening up from this is DK Metcalf's going to have to ask for $26 million a year because he's more talented than both Christian Kirk and Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, and I just don't know if Seattle's ready to. What's up, Steve?
Fabian says, yo, what's up, Steve? No, I'm Ron Burgundy right now, Fabian, but,
He's Ron Burgundy.
Well, yeah, I'm Ron Burgundy.
I'm Ron Burgundy?
You're Ron Burgundy. Anyway, what's your fantasy value on Terry McLaurin this season?
Wide receiver 2. Maybe has wide receiver 1 up weeks, but I think most time he'll finish lower end wide receiver 2.
You see him in that range of maybe 14 to 18 currently?
Probably closer to the 18, but yeah, around there.
Fabian's got a question for us before we get into our next little bit of news or talk about Terry McLaurin a little bit more. So let's answer this one from the heckling fan. Fabian Vasquez says, drop Gronk for Rob, Tan, Komet, or Logan Thomas. Well, listen, Gronk is retired. I don't think he's going to stay retired. Dropping him from Komet, I think, is okay. I wouldn't drop him for Logan Thomas.
Or Robert Tonyan.
Or Robert Tonyan. I would definitely not drop him for Robert Tonyan. I think the only one on this list I would potentially drop him for right now is Komet. Komet is a sleeper, I think, with the Chicago Bears, who could get a lot of volume because there's not a lot of weapons there. Darnell Mooney is the only other weapon that they're going to be throwing to besides the running backs in that offense. So I do like Cole Komet, so keep an eye on him. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to pick him up yet. But Gronk, keep him in mind. I don't think he's going to retire for all of training camp.
Yeah, I definitely feel he'll be back. It is one of those things where he very well could be back by week 1. He just doesn't want to do the offseason crap, so he just retires to not do offseason stuff.
Retires.
Anyway, he's retiring for the summer.
Yeah, it kind of really feels like that. Getting back to Terry McLaurin a little bit more too. Another point I wanted to really bring up about him is I think he really kind of fits in the mold of a wide receiver that the glass man himself, Carson Wentz, will like to. He can get a little bit of separation. I think he'll have good chemistry with him. I don't think you're really going to be wrong picking him up as a wide receiver 2 this year. But, I mean, to think that he can elevate to that wide receiver 1 upside, I think you would be nuts to think about that this offseason.
Yeah, that seems a bit high for his ceiling.
Do you have any other thoughts on Terry McLaurin before I move on to our next little bit of news?
Nope.
All right, so next thing I have for us, we have a little bit of a light night, is Ravens wide receiver Devin Duvernay said he hopes to earn a starting role in training camp with the Baltimore Ravens. This is kind of interesting because the only other really options out there for him is Rashad Bateman, who is above him on the depth chart. Obviously, Mark Andrews is the number 1 target of that entire team, but James Poach and Tyler Wallace really aren't competition for him, and they haven't brought in another veteran as of yet. There is a few ones out there like Odell. I don't know if they'll end up bringing him in, but what's your thoughts on the fantasy value of Devin Duvernay? I know when you and Jake Seeley were on the episode, I asked Jake Seeley if he saw Devin Duvernay as potentially a sleeper. He said no, but what's your thoughts on Devin Duvernay potentially with the Baltimore Ravens? Do you think that the pie is too little for him here to have fantasy upside, or do you think there's actually something here?
No, I think the pie is too small. Lamar Jackson, it's a very heavy run-based offense, whether it be with the running backs, which they're getting their running backs back this year. They were really working with bottom of the barrel last year. So I think they focus more on running the ball again this year. And it's going to be first it's going to be Mark Andrews. He's probably good. Mark Andrews, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets about 25 to 26% of all of the targets from this team, which already isn't going to be a lot.
It kind of feels like he will get about a fourth of the targets there too.
Right.
Obviously, the other one's going to get a lot of receiving options there. Again, I think J.K. Dobbins will get a good piece of the work. Gus Edwards will get some rushing work too. But Rashad Bateman is going to get the number 1 targets there, and I think he's going to play the Hollywood Brown status this year, not in the same role because they are different wide receivers. But he will get the volume just in a different status, I think. But I think he's really the wide receiver 1. And his range of outcomes, I think, is safe. His floor is safe because of the volume he will get. And I see him as a wide receiver 2 that you can get in later rounds, potentially rounds 6 through 8, depending on what happens in your league. Fabian's got another question. Calvin Ridley for Dynasty. If you have Calvin Ridley, I personally traded him for a 2nd-round pick. He is a sleeper for 2023 as of this point because he is suspended for the year. So, I mean, if you want to sit on him and you're deep at all your other positions, he could potentially be good on another team. He will not be playing for Atlanta next year. It was already established, I believe, this year that they were going to trade him, and I think that's still going to be the case. We ends up coming back no matter who the quarterback is for the Atlanta Falcons next year.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure he will be traded. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I'm not saying it will happen or won't happen. If you're not going to get much for him right now, I think his value is higher just holding on to him, really. I mean, if you could somehow swing a good deal for him, then go ahead and trade him. But I would hold on to him because he still has potential to be a top 10 wide receiver when he comes back. He's getting a little bit older, but I mean, I think he's going to be 28 or 29 by the time he comes back. That's still young enough when you're a wide receiver. So I would hold.
Could end up in the Packers uniform, I suppose.
It's possible.
Aaron Rodgers' twilight years. All right, and last little bit of news I got for you tonight, Ron, is the Athletics' Chad Graff and Arian Hassan both described the Vikings' offense and got a description from Coach Kevin O'Connell saying that the offense is going to be very pass-happy. They seem to think in their notes that Cousins is potentially going to take an emphatic step forward, potentially cracking 4,500 passing yards, and they describe it as the Matt Stafford bump for 2022. Do you think this is potentially going to happen this year for Kirk Cousins? Dynasty Football Dad would be very happy if that was the case.
I don't know, man.
Come on, you don't like Kirk Cousins?
So let me rewind the clock. It's not that I don't like Kirk Cousins. I think he's a very serviceable quarterback, all right? Let me rewind the clock a few years ago when he first went to the Minnesota Vikings. I have a friend that's a Vikings fan. My Viking fans friend was pretty excited about getting Kirk Cousins after coming from the then Redskins. I told him, I'm like, it's good for your team. You'll be contenders for playoffs every year, but you're not going to win a Super Bowl with this man. You're not.
He's totally. You don't need to win a Super Bowl with him because this is fantasy football. We just need to.
No, I know, but this is just what I'm saying though. Like, we know who Kirk Cousins is. You know what I mean? Kirk Cousins has never, blown away the league with his passing prowess. You know what I mean? He's efficient. He's smart with the ball. He gets the ball to his good players. Like, that's great for auxiliary pieces and sometimes him. I still picture him as a high-end quarterback 2 with quarterback 1 upside.
Where does Kevin O'Connell compare to other play callers that he's had in his past?
I don't know. That's not a question for me.
And you don't see Justin Jefferson, Thielen, and potentially KJ Osborne helping him increase those stats based on a new offense that's going to be pass happy potentially, and Osborne having another year in that offense, who I think could be a nice late round flyer if this is a pass happy offense.
First off, I think they'd be ridiculous to go to a pass happy offense when you have Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison. It's been since 2017 since Kirk Cousins has finished in the top 10. Last 2 years, he's been number 11. 2 years before that, it was 18-13. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm not putting my chips on Kirk Cousins.
Who do you like better for this year, him or Derek Carr?
Probably him, but I view them both very, very similar.
All right, so you've got them right on that cusp of quarterback
one,
honestly.
Right on, yeah. If you have them, if you're in a super flex and they're your QB2, you're happy. But if they're your QB1, I think they're going to hurt you more, maybe not more weeks, but they'll hurt you worse in those weeks that they hurt you.
Yeah, no, I'm over here giving you a hard time about this and just kind of trying to dig into this topic a little bit more too. I really do agree with you on this topic. He's going to be right on that range, I think, of the QB1. I do like – there's no reason to think that he couldn't potentially have Matt Stafford numbers. He's got weapons like that in this offense. They don't have the Rams defense. Their defense is all right. But they play in a division where teams seem to run the ball in colder weather. It's a different style of play. I understand this could be a pass-happy offense with Kevin O'Connell coming there. But listen, when you have a top 5 or 6 running back in the league, you use him. Yeah. And I think Kevin O'Connell's not going to get away from that, even if they give him passing work, which they will. So I still think he's going to be more in that 4,200, not quite 4,500 range. Yeah. But he's going to be 11 through 13, just what he's just about done for fantasy football in the last few years. But, he could definitely have some good volume with both of his wide receivers. And who knows, maybe there's some deep sleepers on this roster. But As of right now, the back of the end wide receivers and Irv Smith, I don't think really hold a lot of value currently.
I mean, the one thing nice about him is the fact that his ADP is pretty low. So you could get someone with upside, maybe take Trey Lance earlier, someone who could possibly be a league winner.
Hell
but
yeah.
then grab Kirk Cousins later as a security blanket just in case Trey Lance doesn't pan out like people think he is.
And currently in redraft right now, they're going in a similar range. So you could hold off on the quarterback position later and just see what's going on. You could have, in that range, Trey Lance, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, and Kirk Cousins. They're all falling within that range, I believe. And you could have your pick of who you really want in that range.
I think Trey Lance, as soon as Trey Lance is named the starter, his ADP is going to go way too high for me to ever touch him.
Yeah, no. And hopefully you have him in Dynasty because I think he's going to really take off this year. But we will see.
He definitely could.
All right, is it time to put your feet to the fire, Ron?
Bold
Takes 4.0.
Let's see how fun this is. So these are my bold takes.
Well, you said we didn't have a drop for the bold takes, but you have a drop for the heckling fandom as the fantasy specter, so I thought I'd give it to him before we got into your bold takes.
All right. I wasn't ready, but it's fine.
What are you ever for it?
I'm never, ever ready for it. All right. We'll jump right into my bold takes. I'm the last one to go. We saved the best for last.
No, you just took the longest.
I'm going to go. That's more accurate. I'm gonna jump right into the fire here because I think this one will probably get you going. We haven't really talked about this player too awful much outside of contract, but I got DK Metcalf, and I think he finishes outside of the top 15 wide receivers in fantasy football.
And what's your reason for thinking he's going to stop outside of the top 15? I run into this topic a little bit.
Currently, I do not have Baker Mayfield projections because it's still unknown if he's going there. So we'd have to see in that scenario. Mm-hmm. And I have yet to be able to stat out every team. I've been a little bit more busy this year than I normally am. But right now, I mean, I've got him at 84 receptions, 1,200 yards, and 5 TDs. And I think the TDs are what's really going to kill him. You know what I mean? Because DK Metcalf should be able to put up. That may change if Baker Mayfield comes. This whole projection may be different. But right now, with the QBs that they have there, Drew Lock and Geno Smith, I don't see the touchdowns being there. They're going to want to run the ball a lot. They're going to want to keep the ball out of their quarterback's hands as much as possible, as long as it's one of these two. I think it's going to be Geno Smith. He knows the offense. He played admirably when he stepped in for Russell Wilson last year. So I think it's going to be Geno if they don't go with someone else.
I completely agree with you about what you said here. I do not hate this take. Listen, I predicted DK Metcalf was going to potentially be a wide receiver here too. And I've got our friends here on some of the sleeper. I've got Fantasy Pros pulled up right here. So I'm going to run down the list of ones that could potentially be better than him. You have Kupp, Chase, Jefferson, Samuel, Diggs, Adams, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, Tyreek, AJ Brown, and I don't agree with that. T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Pittman, who I think is going to be higher up on this list than people think. Scary Terry, who got a contract today. And towards the bottom of this list, we have some interesting names too. Mike Williams, Jalen Waddle, Cortland Sutton. I even like Brady Cooks better than him this year.
Yeah.
So I think DK Metcalf falls into that range of somewhere, as you said, between potentially probably 15 to 22, I think, is where his floor is about to fall. I think he's still a comfortable wide receiver too. And you're right, Geno performed admirably last season for what I would think a Geno Smith would do in an offense.
Yeah.
So I think he could be comparable this year. His ceiling's a little bit higher with Baker Mayfield, closer to that 10 to 15 range, potentially a wide receiver one if Baker is there. But yeah, no, I think you're right on the money with him about at 15. I don't hate that value for him there, and you do not have my blood going for this one. I think this is a good prediction, and this is kind of more of a lukewarm one. I don't think this is very bold, so I think you're going to need to up your game on your second prediction.
I almost did outside the top 24, and I couldn't get quite to that point.
Just out of curiosity, where do you have Tyler Lockett ranked right now currently then?
Worse.
How much worse?
Again, I haven't had anyone stat it out, but I only have him getting 843 yards on the season.
That is disgusting.
Yeah.
And not helpful. Maybe in best ball, if he has some weird weeks where he breaks out for 200 yards.
Right.
If he does that, it'll only happen 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. So I wanted to bring up, from week 6 on, right? Mm-hmm. DK Metcalf only had 3 games where he was inside the top 10. But hold on, because those 3 games, he was also the only time he was inside the top 15, inside the top 20, inside the top 30. So 3 games from week 6 through the rest of the season where he only topped wide receiver 30.
It's pretty gross there, Runs.
Yeah. Yeah, that is nasty numbers. Like, if it wasn't for name, people would not be looking at him the way they are, even.
Is he someone that potential dynasty owners should look to acquire while his stock is still low?
I think by the middle to end of this year, yes. I don't think right now, because people are still really high on DK Metcalf because of his name and what he was. You know what I mean? I think he's going to come out, poo-poo the bed for quite a few weeks, and you might be able to get him for a lot cheaper than what you should be getting him for. Because I think the Seahawks make a definite quarterback upgrade next year because they'll probably have a top 5 pick. And again, this is all stemming from, no quarterback changes off right now. You know what I mean?
You hear that, Jamal Adams? Eat your heart out, top 5.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Jersey, Northwest.
All right. We'll move on.
Let's up the heat a little bit. I think your second prediction's got to be a little bit better.
This one might be. This one's, I don't know how hot it is. I don't know. But I got Alvin Kamara outside the top 10 for fantasy running backs.
It's not hot at all, but go ahead.
Well, I don't think he misses 6 games. Honestly,
how many do you think he misses?
Probably 3 or 4. I think they'll say 6. He'll appeal. It'll end up being 3 or 4. But again, who knows what this offense is going to be? Jameis Winston doesn't always like to target his running backs. You know what I mean? He likes pushing the ball down the field more. And I think they use the RBBC a little bit more. They have Mark Ingram back in tow.
The committee.
Yeah. And a lot of what Kamara does is with his pass catching ability, and that's just not what the team is anymore. He showed up towards the latter half of Drew Brees' career. Drew Brees was much more willing to dump the ball down. People are still taking Kamara as of right now as, a top 6 or 7 running back.
In the second round.
Is he going second round?
Yes, he's still going in the second round in a lot of formats. Fantasy Pros has him currently at 11, which, depending on the format in the league and if you're running back heavy, is in the second round.
Oh, wow. See, I thought last I looked, he was still going like wide receiver 7-8.
This may be in sleeper format. Fantasy Pros is typically a little bit spottier with their rankings. So let me run you through the gauntlet then. And if he ends up with a 3-game suspension, let me give you a few names and you tell me which one you'd rather have, full season, that player, or him. Would you rather have him for a full season or Zeke Elliott?
Zeke.
Him or Cam Akers?
Him
or Elijah Mitchell?
Elijah Mitchell.
Kamara or J.K. Dobbins?
J.K. Dobbins.
Alvin Kamara or Javonte Williams?
Javonte Williams.
All right, Ron Seymour. I think Alvin Kamara's, if you were to be suspended for 3 games, and if you're drafting at the point where you know how many games he's going to be suspended, and that's the line, I drop him a little bit more into that probably 3rd tier of running backs. I mean, you're missing 3 games here, so it's not something that will kill your fantasy team, but you're definitely going to need to drop him in front of players like James Conner, Leonard Fournette, I think.
I would much rather have James Conner or Leonard Fournette before Alvin Kamara.
Zeke Elliott is about my line, I think, where I would stop, though.
And if he gets suspended for 6 games,
he's completely off my radar until the 4th round, I think, then.
And I understand it's the same thing with DeAndre Hopkins. Like, yeah, it's only 6 games. Yeah, the NFL season's 18 games. But you also got to remember, the NFL season is 18 games. Fantasy football, regular season,
14 weeks probably for the
14.
playoffs.
14 weeks.
In the correct leagues.
So you're missing him for the correct leagues, right? So you're missing him for almost half of your season. Like, you could lose those first 6 games if you're saddled to someone who's suspended for 6 weeks.
That's why I wouldn't even touch him until the 4th round if he was suspended for the 6 games. 3 games, I can take him in that 3rd round range at either 3 games. My typical play is just not to draft suspended players. I usually don't go that route unless it's just a late round flyer for me.
Right.
But depending on how many games he's drafted, I mean, he's missing, it drops his status. Don't get me wrong. Alvin Kamara is still a top 10, easily a top 10 running back in this
100%.
league. The problem is he's suspended and dealing with legal issues right now, and we don't know how many games he's going to be suspended for. So you're going to have to evaluate this going into the summer. I think we'll have an answer before we get to our drafts. But currently, not knowing how many is going to be suspended, that range probably falls 3 to 6, according to sources. He's in that tier 3 of running backs, I think, at 3. If he drops 6 games, he's going well below into tier 4, where I may even take someone like Breece Hall before him for a full season. That's how confident I am in some of these other guys, as opposed to taking a running back who's missing 6 games.
Yeah.
So no, this is another lukewarm prediction, Ron Seymour. These are bold takes.
All right.
I need something bold for you on your 3rd prediction.
All right. I'll try here. All right. We just mentioned him a little bit. J.K. Dobbins. You know what? I'm going to change my number. Hold on 1 second.
Going a little bit spicier for us.
I'll try to go a little bit spicier.
Bringing out the ghost pepper.
Yeah. J.K. Dobbins will finish as a top 6 fantasy running back this year. Is that a little bit spicier for you?
That's much spicier for me now. You know,
Well, what if I said
I was all about the J.K. Dobbins last year, predicting he was going to be a top 3 statistical AFC running back last year in one of my bold takes, which happened right before he went down with injury. So why don't you tell us why J.K. Dobbins can finish as a top 6 running back on this take?
I mean, honestly, the same stuff that you said last year. Like, the man was starting to take over the timeshare that was there, and that was a 3-way timeshare between him, Mark Ingram, and Gus Edwards. Yes, Gus Edwards is coming back. Yes, he just tore his ACL, but just tore his ACL. He had over a year for recovery at this point by the time he sees the field. I don't think they see him at all in the preseason. I think they literally just sit him down, and he doesn't play at all in the preseason. Same with Gus Edwards. So people are going to be out of there. Let's look at the last little bit from weeks 11 through 17 in his full season there 2 years ago. He finishes the running back 6, 16, 16, 18, 19, and 3. He was getting 50% or more of the carries those weeks, averaging anywhere from 4 to 7 yards per carry. So rough average of about 6. And like I've already said, they're going to want to go back to running that ball. And
heavily. I think you're going to see a lot of that 2019 offense. And I think
instead of it's going to be a 3 monster, it's only going to be 2 running back monster. You're going to have J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Yes, Lamar Jackson that's a different thing. J.K. Dobbins can still finish top 6 because people are going to have to account for Lamar Jackson, and we know it's been proven over and over again that frees up the running back for big chunk plays, and J.K. Dobbins is shifty, quick, and can get himself open to make huge plays.
This has nothing to do with him being on your dynasty team currently?
No, this is the reason I wanted to go on and get him on my dynasty.
Okay.
Because I think he could be good for quite a few years with this Ravens team.
So you think he could potentially finish in that range? So obviously Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, I guess if you want to count him, but he's still injured. Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris. Do you think he can be in that range?
Yeah, I really do. I think Austin Eckler falls out, honestly. Okay. I think Najee Harris falls out. I think it goes something along the lines of Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, J.K. Dobbins. Not going to get into my Saquon Barkley thing because JJ already covered that one. But yeah, I think he could very clearly get himself up there. I think he's talented enough, and I think he's in the right system to be able to do it.
That's bolder than I would take on that. I see him potentially right on the cusp of 10 to 12 is where I've currently got him. I don't got him quite breaking up to 6, so you're a little bit higher than him. But yeah, no, I think this is in the range of outcomes for him in a offense that's going to be very run heavy, where you're going to see a little bit of drop off potentially on the points is in the red zone where Lamar Jackson may call his number, unfortunately, and take away some of that talent. And Gus Edwards will obviously work in there too. He's a pretty talented running back too. So I think this is in its range of outcomes, but he's kind of scary coming off the injuries. Typically, injuries like this typically take about a year and a half for the running back to be back to full strength. And not only that, there's a lot of running backs in this backfield, and there's just so many outcomes for him. He could be in that community. We've got Edwards. Yes, it's Lamar Jackson counts as another one, so there's 3.
Right, but the year he was breaking out, there was 4 because you had Mark Ingram, Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, and him.
I think Justice Hill was there too, maybe.
Yeah, but he didn't do much. I think it was just the main 4. But yeah, I mean, he's going to have almost a year and a half before the year starts from healing. I can't remember exactly the date, but I believe it was during I don't even think it was in preseason. It was before preseason. So he's going to have a year and a few months. So I think maybe he gets off to a slighter, slower start, but I think he really turns it on and finishes the year strong, probably the last 10 to 12 weeks.
Okay. All right. We're going to go to a Fabian Vasquez intermission who's got a question for us. He says, what is going on with the Miami and Seattle backfields? Miami backfield. Go ahead and answer. You can answer and then I'll answer.
Well, I just wasn't sure what Mamia was, so I couldn't figure it out. I got a good one for this. The Miami backfield, you run away from and you run away from fast, and that stuff starts clearing up.
Cancer, just sweep it away.
2, I've statted out Seattle's backfield, and this was almost one of my bold takes, but I didn't want 2 Seattle bold takes. So I'll throw this one as a bonus.
I like this backfield.
Both Rashad Penny and Ken Walker III will finish with over 1,000 yards rushing.
Damn.
Yeah.
That would be bold as shit.
I think they run the ball a lot.
Well, that's not out of the realms of possibility. I mean, the Giants have had 3 1,000-yard rushers before. This is an extra game too. I think you could see. My guess is that initially, I think Penny will start off in that backfield, and when he gets more than I heard a stat on Fantasy Football today, when he gets more than 10 carries in a game, he's dominant. But the problem is he doesn't ever stay healthy, and hammies come up with him and other injuries, and he fades off. Ken Walker's very talented and can get passing work. I think that Ken Walker is going to be a high-end running back too by the end of the year, and Penny will be a nice flex play for you. So that's what's going on with the Seattle backfield. You can take them later currently in draft. So if you fade the running back position or need a little bit of depth, the Seattle backfield is a nice one to look at later in the draft, maybe.
And they're going to be run heavy. I actually have I have them having 510 total rush attempts on the whole year. I got Chris Carson practically doing nothing.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if he sits out for the year.
I literally put 5 rushing attempts on it for him for the year.
I would put him at 0, so I'm right along with you on that sentiment. Over or under 1 punch to the jaw to Geno Smith?
Is this a reference to the Jets? Is that it?
Yeah.
I'm going to go under. Under.
Okay. Over or under 1 punch to the jaw for Le'Veon Bell in the Adrian Peterson fight? Oh, that's right. That's knockout. It's going to go to knockout.
It's going to go to knockout. Who's winning it?
Adrian Peterson.
80 all day?
80 all day.
I like it. All right, we'll get on to
Fabian says Edmonds running back 1. No.
A lot of people have to get caught from that team before I make any type of inclination who I might think is the running back one. They have way too many running backs. I think
that's Fabian's bold take.
Yeah. I mean, he could be if they caught 3 running backs.
But Fabian, that was gross. No.
All right, we'll get on to one of my next ones. This one's a little weird because I'm sectioning it. Zach Ertz. Through the first 6 weeks of the season, will be a top 5 tight end. And then he will finish outside the top 10 at the end of the season.
No, I don't see this happening.
Which part don't you like the most?
He's going to finish. Yeah, I think he'll do all right the first 6 weeks. I'm all right with that, but he's still going to finish outside of the top 5. There's much better tight ends in this league, but it's going to be it's going to be just outside that 6 to 8 range. So this, unfortunately, is a shit take for you. Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts is going to get a lot of volume. Hell, even Dalton Schultz, Darren Waller, George Kittle. And Dawson Knox, surprise. I just don't see Ertz going into that top 5 or even in the first 6 weeks. And I agree with the second part of your take about him falling completely out in the second half of the season.
Here's my thinking. Zach Ertz is going to get double, triple covered through the first part of the season until someone in Kansas City shows that they're going to take over that Tyreek Hill spot. Because Travis Kelce, is going to be the only person in that passing game at first. I think they'll get it. I think they'll figure it out and something will get going. And that'll enable Travis Kelce to be able to, start not being triple and quadruple covered. But it's going to take.
Zach Ertz taking a similar role to Travis Kelce?
I see Zach Ertz having a huge role in those first 6 weeks when DeAndre Hopkins isn't there.
Okay, and where's the comparison come into Travis Kelce you brought up?
I'm saying that Travis Kelce is going to be bracketed and
I see. You're saying that he's not
right,
going to
so he'll drop out.
Getting...
Right. Kyle Pitts got a new quarterback, potentially a rookie quarterback, and same thing. Someone needs to step up and show that Kyle Pitts isn't that whole offense. So he's also going to be bracketed and crazy covered. George Kittle, again, Trey Lance is a running quarterback. He could very well sneak up in there, but he could have a lot of games where he's just not there. I think Travis Kelce or Zach Ertz is going to be heavily involved in that offense through those first 6 weeks. I think Marquise Brown is going to take the top off, and that's going to leave room for Zach Ertz in the middle of that field to just be not quite as wide open as that one game. But plus, I think he'll be heavily targeted in the red zone for Kyler Murray.
Potentially.
So he could end up not getting very many yards, but getting, You figure if he catches one touchdown each one of those games, that's almost instantly top 5 tight end. 6 touchdowns in 6 weeks, that almost guarantees you top 5 tight end right there.
He could. I don't see him having that much volume. I think they got enough weapons on that offense, including at the running back position and at the wide receiver position. There's some wide receivers like Rondell Moore, who you're not as high on, who I think gets some work. AJ Green is still there to help out, even though he's a little bit long in the tooth. And I think the running backs could get a little bit more passing work too. The thing about him is he's aging a little bit. I think he's going to be nice and consistent, get a few targets, but I think there's enough talented tight ends in this league to surpass him in the rankings and just have better stats. It's not that I don't think he won't have a good first 6 weeks,
right,
and I could potentially see him falling off. I just think there's more than 5 that are going to be better than him, which isn't necessarily bad for fantasy football, going in the range he's considered in. I just don't see your bold take coming to fruition, but that's, again, why it's a bold take.
But 100%, if you have Zach Ertz on your team and he does take off in the first 6 weeks, I would trade him and get something good for him because I don't think it'll last a full season.
All right. Fabian Vasquez has some questions about tight ends too. He's asking us, is TJ Hawkinson and Pat Freiermuth tight end ones this year? So
I'm going to go with yes.
I say both are. Listen, Freiermuth's going to be he's going to have a rookie throwing to him for 17 weeks. Sorry, JJ. And I think rookies like tight ends. It's kind of their security blanket, but he's going to be going into his second year, and he established himself last year in a very talented passing room where, listen, there's a lot of weapons at the wide receiver core, and he was able to establish himself when Eric Ebron was there in the tight end room, and a lot of weapons on the outside. So Freiermuth is obviously talented right there, and I could see him establishing himself very nicely in the middle of the field. So I think Pat Freiermuth will be a low-end tight end one this year. In TJ Hawkinson, yes, he can be a tight end one just because, well, there's got to be someone that's a tight end one in the
Hawkinson could potentially hit that top 5 mark too.
I don't think he will, though.
Well, the way I look at it is you had the resurgence of Amon-Ra, plus you get Jameson Williams back.
Probably halfway through the season.
DeAndre Swift. And if you got all those guys and everybody can stay healthy, then I don't see any reason why Hawkinson, he'll get less coverage. And he's very talented. I mean, he was tight end, what was it? 6 up through before he got injured last year, I believe.
I'm not arguing that.
So I think he could. I probably won't have him projected that way, but he definitely could finish top 5 in tight ends.
I like someone like Dawson Knox better than him this year, honestly. Listen, it's the Lions offense. Jared Goff is capable, but I think there's a clear line for the top 5. That's Andrews, Kelsey, Kittle, Pitts, Darren Waller's right on the edge there. Dalton Schultz is right there. There's some that I just like better, and I think that line stops at 5 where you get elite tight ends, and I don't see him breaking into that. Is he still a tight end one? Yes, but it's towards the bottom half, I think, of the tight ends this year.
I wouldn't put him bottom half. I would put him at least 6 to 8.
8 would be bottom half.
Yeah, but 6 would be top half. I would put him more towards the 6. I'm just trying to look up something real quick about Hercules here.
About Hercules? He's going to be a Hercules this year?
Yeah. My computer's running real slow for some stupid
A Lions Greek god.
That's right. So let's see. He finished 15 last year, but he didn't play from week 14 on. He had 6 games inside the top 10, with 4 of those being top 5. Definitely had some games where he really didn't do much at all. But you give me, actually, I can do this. Weeks 1 through 14. Come on, do the buttons.
That's what happens when you don't pay for your internet provider there, Heckling Fandom.
Oh, it's all paid. You calm yourself down. So through the 13.
Is it paid for now?
Through week 13, week 14, I mean, he was the tight end 5 last year.
Okay. I don't see him finishing in the top 5. Though.
I'm just saying he could.
All right, let's get on to your fifth and final, allegedly bold prediction.
This one, I mean, I think it's pretty bold. I don't even know how much I believe it myself. But I do believe it. Joe Burrow will be overdrafted.
Oh. Okay.
Right now, he is going as high as QB5 off the board.
Hold on. Let's answer Fabian's question. He's on the clock for a draft. I'm on the clock right now. Should I draft Jalen Ramsey, TJ Watt? My friend and I made a defense fantasy league, and he hacked it. Go with TJ Watt.
TJ Watt.
Yep. Go ahead, John Seymour. Back to your question.
So Joe Burrow, people have him, his average consensus is QB6. And his highest is QB5. I do not believe he finishes in the top 5 QBs. I think if you take him there, you are drafting him too early. It's consensus overall of like 54 overall, which is what? At least 5th round?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's way too early. Way too early for Joe Burrow.
I like Joe. Helped win your fantasy leagues last year. I mean, him and his freaking partner in crime there just torched the league the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, the last 3 weeks. That was it. Really. I mean, he had other good weeks, but he only finished. Okay, so up until, let's say.
He arrived and he even showed that during the playoffs. I don't know. This is bold. Go ahead and continue your take.
Okay, so outside of week 16 and 17, where he was, heads and tails above the rest, the QB1, right?
Yep.
Let's see, week 15, it was 17. He had 1, 2, 3. Other than those 2 weeks, he only had 3 inside the top 10. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, where he finished outside the top 15. And he had an 11 and a 12 sprinkled in there. You don't want to, I understand, looking at those last 2 weeks in the playoffs, and all that. That's not sustainable. Those numbers are not sustainable. I don't care if they improve the offensive line. That hurts those numbers. Improving the offensive line means they're going to run the ball more. They're going to be more efficient at running the ball, and they won't need to pass the ball as much. I think you're taking him at QB5, he'll probably finish more closer to QB10. I think if you can get him at 10, great. But when you're drafting in the 5th round, when you've got great wide receivers that are still going in the 5th round, and you're handicapping yourself on some of those wide receivers that have legit, league-winning upside, and you take Joe Burrow, who could potentially not be horrible for your team. I'm not saying he's going to be bad for your team, but he's not going to be what you saw at the end of those last 2 weeks / the playoffs. That's not the team they're going to be. I love Jamar Chase this year. I love T. Higgins this year. Joe Burrow, where he's being drafted, don't love that. Way too much.
Highly disagree with you. I love Joe Burrow this year, but it's going to be right at 5 where I think he's going to finish. Josh Allen, Herbert, Mahomes, and I'll say Lamar Jackson, I think, are going to be above him. I think he falls right at that 5 line. Listen, I just think he arrived and just put it together at the end of last season. He won so many people their league championships last year. I love him in Dynasty. And I think he just put all the pieces together, and we've finally seen Joe Burrow arrive. Statistically speaking, as you've shown, yes, he didn't perform early in the season, but listen, he's got an improved offensive line. He's going to have more time in the pocket. They're going to just throw it absolutely all around the field. Joe Mixon, I think, is going to get good work this year, and I think the Bengals are not going to be that Super Bowl loser that falls off and runs out of the playoffs. I think Joe Burrow is going to be right on the cusp of being still that top 5, potentially even being above a rushing quarterback like Lamar Jackson. I love Joe Burrow this year, and I don't think he gets closer to 10 like you think.
In order to beat the rushing quarterbacks, you have to throw for 5,000 plus yards.
It's not out of his realm of possibilities. He could do it.
I don't think he will do it. I think, like you said, Allen, Herbert, Mahomes, you didn't even put Brady in there. Brady's going to have his weeks. Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray.
Nah, don't put Jalen Hurts in there.
You don't think Jalen Hurts, who can run for 800 yards, has the potential of outbeating him? He does. Trey Lance has the potential of outperforming.
He does. Yes.
Trey Lance and what? Trey Lance.
We've gotten into this discussion before. I've
they are
told
the
you
same
I thought,
person.
Oh
they are
my
the same
God,
person.
It's not even close. No, Trey Lance is way better than him, and you're going to see that this year. Anyway, let's go back to Joe Burrow because we've gotten into that argument before. So stay on Joe Burrow.
That's all my point of Joe Burrow. All those people could outscore fantasy points than Joe Burrow. Every last one of them.
Fabian seems to agree with you here. He thinks Wilson, Murray, Lamar, all
Wilson,
Burrow.
Wilson could definitely finish better than Burrow. With the
Burrow
weapons
will
he
finish
has.
above all of them.
I'm telling you, you want to take the chance in the 5th round, taking him as the QB5?
That's not the strategy I play. Listen, you're asking for if he's going to be a top 5 quarterback. The strategy I play is take my running backs early, get depth, get my wide receivers. But as for where he's going to rank among quarterbacks, yes, I think top 5 is definitely his potential. I'm not going to take him in the 5th round. That's not what I do typically. I would rather get the value.
But what I'm saying,
the value of a Russell this year, potentially Matt Stafford, someone along those lines. So that's more of the strategy I would take. But statistically speaking, the person that takes him in the 5th round is going to get that value for him because he's going to finish it right at the cusp of 5, I think.
You are totally destroying your own argument.
This is a troll comment by Fabian. Ryan Tannehill or Joe Burrow? Obviously,
that's Joe Burrow. You're kind of destroying your own argument there because you're thinking you want to take the value of these people in the 5th round. But if I knew 110% Joe Burrow was going to finish the top 5, if someone came back in time and was like, Joe Burrow is going to be the number 4 QB in fantasy football this year.
I'm not. No, listen, I'm not destroying my argument for that because
you are because you're saying that you are confident he's going to finish as a top 5. Then why would you not take him?
Right at 5, and I wouldn't take him because I've got to get more value at the running back position because the quarterback in a redraft, particularly not 2 quarterback format, unless it's dynasty, is less valuable than having 2 good running backs, potentially a 3rd at your flex spot, and high position wide receivers who I can get more value and score at a higher level as opposed to the lower level wide receivers where I can get less scoring between a 5 and a 10 at the quarterback, which is a smaller range. That's why I would take the higher value running back. So that is absolutely a non-argument.
You're saying in the 5th round comes up, without a shadow of a doubt, someone came back in time and said, Joe Burrow is going to finish this year as the QB5. You know that. That is 100% locked in. You would take a flyer on any other wide receiver or running back rather than take someone that
absolutely.
100%. That is ridiculous fantasy football strategy.
That is absolutely not because you need the value of the running back and the wide receivers, which is a much more prominent position to the quarterback as opposed to that.
No, the person that you draft. The person that you draft in the 5th round.
I can get a similar range between 5 to 10, where the running back and wide receiver position drops off much more significantly, especially the running back position in that range.
By the 5th round,
you aren't going to find absolutely at the running back position after the 5th round. It drops off. You're throwing.
No, that's
I would rather take the much
before the 5th round.
No, we have much different strategies then.
No. We have the same strategy. I don't take quarterbacks that early. You know that, but I'm saying that if I knew without a shadow of a doubt that Joe Burrow was going to be the number 5 overall quarterback at the end of the year, I would rather take that locked rather than take a flyer on someone else in the 5th round.
Not me, because that won't necessarily win your league.
But it definitely won't lose you your league.
You're going to win, though. And saying you the range between 5 and 10 at the quarterback position isn't as low as it is from getting a running back between potentially that 5th round. And I think you're going to see a significant drop off between that and the 6th round running back where you're starting to throw them dart throws.
So last year, the quarterback 5, Matthew Stafford, finished with 346 points.
Yep.
The quarterback 10 finished with 310.
50 points.
The biggest drop off was from 4 to 5. And then from 5 to 6 was another 10 points. So if you knew that there was going to be, 10-point difference or whatnot for running back, here we go. 5th place was 239. 10 was 208. So only 30-something points. That's less of a drop off. Wide receiver. Come on. Just load for me.
That's not
wide receiver.
No, statistically looking at that, that's not prominent because there's more running backs and wide receivers taking the quarterbacks at that point. So you still have to go farther down the ranking. So you can't just jump from 5 to 10.
Right, but that's my point. So you're jumping down to someone who's going to score significantly less than a quarterback that you know is going to finish.
Ron, over a 14-week period, what is 50 points as opposed to having?
But you're not.
Let's say a 4th round running back where J.K. Dobbins currently is, and you think he could potentially finish top 5, as opposed to having someone disgusting like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire a round later. I think I'll take the J.K. Dobbins.
Right, but we're talking about 5th round, not 4th round.
Yes, 5th round. Ooh, we have someone else in the audience that's a little bit different from the heckling fandom named Scott Tyler. Scott Tyler says, but Brady last year was going approximately in the 8th round. So yes, thank you, Scott. This is just adding to my argument that I would just rather take prominent running backs and wide receivers in those early rounds as opposed to having Joe Burrow, who I think is going to be right at the quarterback 5. And people with Brady could have potentially won their league last year if Joe Burrow didn't explode.
You're still missing the point. The point I'm trying to make is he's being overdrafted. Right. So my point is, though, if you 100% knew the outcome of him, you would still take someone. So you knew he was going to score 80 to 90 points more than that running back that's really far down on the list that you're thinking about drafting. You would still take that running back.
Absolutely, because I'll take my quarterback, like he just said, between potentially the 6th to the 8th round. Because, listen, you get into that Breece Hall, Elijah Moore, Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, A.J. Dillon drop-off, and then you start getting into Edwards-Helaire, Kareem Hunt, Ken Walker, Rashad Penny, Melvin Gordon, more of these zero running back strategy type of running backs. I would rather have the higher end running backs who I think are going to score and then take a chance on someone like a Tom Brady in the 8th round.
My thing is, you're not getting a high end running back in round 5.
So you're telling me in that range, potentially Travis Etienne couldn't be a high end one, or AJ Dillon this year?
Could be.
I'll take the could be because that'll help me win my league. I can win with a quarterback, but right at the 10 range this year, like a Matt Stafford or a Tom Brady, as opposed to Burrow at 5.
Both of those guys finished higher than 10.
Okay, but they still potentially could do that, and I can draft them in that range.
So hold on. So you said you could win with a quarterback in the 10 range, huh?
Sure, I'll take Russell Wilson then.
Okay.
Russell Wilson's in the top 10.
You know who was on my team last year? Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray finishes the quarterback 10. You know what I didn't do last year? Win.
You also lost to Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence because you had a fluke week.
Because I had Kyler Murray, the quarterback 10.
All right, Ron. Anything else you want to tell the heckling fandom tonight?
I mean, do not draft a quarterback early. I mean, I 100% agree with Joe on that. Definitely draft late. Don't draft Joe Burrow where he's going. You will be disappointed. He will not finish top 5.
All right, with that, Ron, where can you
and cue the part where he probably finishes QB1 now.
Such an asshole. Where can you find the show, Ron, if you like the bullshit we bring up on it?
Right here on YouTube. You make sure right here on YouTube at Garbage Time Fantasy Football. and you like it and subscribe it and hit the bell so you see when we put up new videos, whether they're on time or not. Make sure you go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are being played. You can find us. Make sure you like and subscribe there. If you want a more in-depth place of where we can be found.
Fabian saying Tua is better. You're such a troll, dude.
Thank you. If you want a better inclination of where we can be found, just go over to our website, www.garbagetimef.com. That'll have all of our links to all the spots. Make sure you go to all of them, like them and subscribe to all of them. Leave us a voicemail or a hate mail. Leave us a review. You can do it right from our website. Twitter, garbage_time_FF.
Holy
Instagram is Garbage Time Fantasy Football. And I think those are all the fun things. You got anything else, Joe?
I think you pretty much got it. And Fabian, thanks for always being in the Heckling Fandom audience. Definitely tune into the next stream. We'll have something very exciting for you. I think we have a Would You Rather episode coming up where we have scenario questions about what happens in your draft and which player you would rather have in those positions. And those ones are always interesting arguments. We'll see if maybe we can get 3 or 4 of us off of that episode because the arguments will be very good for it. Also, we have 4 more divisional breakdowns coming up in the next month, too. We're going to try to pump some more content out for you guys in this upcoming summer so you're ready for your mock drafts. The Sabotage mock drafts will be coming up very soon, and we'll have some other surprises for the Heckling Fandom going forward. And with that, guys, I think we're ready to get out of here. Ron, you ready to hit that button for us?
Oh yeah. Have a great night, everyone. See you next time.